Hey guys, welcome to the Dark Tales to True Spring Break horror story. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe to enjoy more horror stories. On a Friday morning, I prepared to meet up with my college friends for our highly anticipated Coachella trip. My friends were EDM enthusiasts, always excited to rave and party, while I, being more into rap music, joined them for the event's special guests and the prospect of meeting beautiful girls that frequented such gatherings. Before heading to Coachella, my friends gathered at my place for our customary pre-drinking ritual, a pre-event tradition we always upheld. I vividly recall taking shots with my female friends, Jody and Mika, while my friend Nick, unfortunately designated as the driver, watched over us. We cheered to an evening of indulgence and fun. But I noticed a peculiar figure lurking around us, an older man who seemed out of place amidst the youthful crowd. We embarked on the journey to Coachella, and upon arriving, we were welcomed by the awe-inspiring visuals and a vibrant atmosphere. The festival was a dream come true for me, and I felt like a child in a candy shop, reveling in the euphoric experience. As the night progressed, I found myself intoxicated, engrossed in hallucinative imagery and the electrifying performances. The days blended together, and we partied all night, fueled by alcohol and excitement. However, on the last night, a disturbing incident shook me to the core. My friend Jody was sitting on my shoulders, a common sight at such festivals, when I noticed the same man from earlier staring at us intensely, facing away from the stage. The unnerving encounter sent chills down my spine, and I excused myself, pretending to use the restroom. Inside the porta potty, I became violently ill, but my ordeal didn't end there. To my horror, the porta potty began shaking violently, and I heard a voice whispering, "I decided to rock your world too." The encounter terrified me, and I rushed to a designated sleeping area to rest, hoping to sleep off the effects of alcohol. After a few minutes, my friend Jody came to check on me, but when I mentioned the incident, she denied any knowledge of it. Bewildered, I showed her the selfies on my phone, featuring the man lying beside me while I was unconscious. This strange and unsettling episode haunted me as we headed back home after the festival. My mind reeled with questions, and I couldn't shake the disturbing images from my memory. It seemed as though I had encountered something deeply disturbing at Coachella, an encounter that left me questioning my experiences and the safety of such events. The ride home allowed me to sober up, and I tried to make sense of the perplexing events that had transpired. As we left Coachella behind, I couldn't help but wonder about the stranger who had invaded my space and whether he had any malicious intentions. My feelings of excitement and exhilaration were overshadowed by an unsettling feeling, leaving me with a sense of unease that lingered long after Coachella had ended. Let's get into the second story. Every spring break, my father's side of the family had an unusual tradition of planning a trip together. This year, they had chosen to book a ranch situated deep in the countryside, surrounded by vast miles of dense forest with no neighboring properties in sight. It seemed like a perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life, a chance to reconnect with each other and nature. As we arrived at the ranch on the first night, the sun had already set, and the moon was beginning to cast its silvery glow over the land. Unpacking the car, I noticed my little cousin looking into the woods and asking, "Who's that man in the woods?" I glanced in the direction he was pointing but saw nothing. Assuming he was seeing things in the dim light, I comforted him, assuring him that there was no one in the woods. Though the incident gave me a slight shiver, I was happy to be reunited with the rest of my cousins, particularly Jackson and Sabrina, who were around my age. The ranch was impressive, boasting 3 entrances and windows without blinds, giving it a wide, open feel. On the first night, Jackson, Sabrina, and I ventured into the woods while no one was watching. We used flashlights from the house to guide our way, intrigued by what we might find. In the distance, we heard the sound of goats and decided to follow the noise. Our footsteps echoed through the darkness until we spotted a small red barn. As I approached the barn, I froze in place upon seeing a tall figure inside. The darkness obscured his features, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. My cousins called out to me, and I quickly retreated back to the ranch. I shared my experience with them, including my little cousin's earlier comment about seeing a man in the woods. However, they dismissed my concerns, chalking it up to watching too many scary movies. Later, as we returned to the ranch, we noticed the adults gathered around the broken back door. It had been damaged before our arrival, and they had already notified the owner to avoid any liability. I explored the house, and in one room, I found a peculiar painting of a young boy with a baby goat. While gazing at it, I sensed someone approaching from behind. Fearing it might be the same person from the woods, I hesitated before turning around to face my uncle. He advised me not to touch the painting as it appeared valuable, and I watched him leave the room. As the night wore on, Jackson and Sabrina left to join the rest of the family roasting marshmallows. However, I chose to stay back, still unsettled by the encounter in the woods. Alone in the room with the big window, I eventually dozed off. But when I woke up later, the house was engulfed in darkness, and I heard a faint tapping sound coming from the window. Opening my eyes slowly, I saw a man standing outside the window with a goat head on. He was using a bloody butcher knife to knock on the glass, creating the tapping sound. Fear gripped me, and I screamed, hoping someone would hear me. But I soon realized that I was the only one in the house, and my family was still out in the woods. Thankfully, the front door was locked, preventing the man from entering, and he disappeared from view. However, the sound of a door slowly creaking open made me recall that the back door was broken. Fearing he could find a way inside, I bolted out the front door, rushing to the opposite side of the forest where my family was. In the distance, I saw smoke rising from the woods, presuming it was my family roasting s'mores. I ran toward the smoke, desperate to find them and leave the horrors behind. But when I reached the fire, the smell wasn't of chocolate and marshmallows, it was of burning flesh. In short, I saw various body parts skewered on sticks around the fire. Sabrina's bracelet confirmed my worst fears, and my heart sank. While I was distracted by the gruesome sight, a huge hand gripped my shoulder, and I turned to face the man with the goat head. I could see desperation in his eyes through the mask as I braced myself for the worst. As my vision blurred and darkness overtook me, I realized the sinister truths that awaited me. The spring break trip, meant to be a joyful tradition, had turned into a horrifying nightmare, leaving my family shattered and me at the mercy of an unhinged predator. I pray that none of you ever experience such a nightmarish spring break, and that you remain safe wherever you choose to spend your vacations.